Wanted to say hello to everybody.
Hello.
Okay.
Hello.
All right. So I really appreciate everyone coming out today on I guess it's a pretty cold day up here in North Alabama. But we have a monthly series where we talk about voter services related activities, really to try to help us all get more on point and trained so that we can provide the help that the people of Alabama need to be able to become civically engaged and also be ready to vote when there's an election. And so today in our February session, we're gonna kick it off with talking about the upcoming election in Tuscaloosa. And I'm gonna ask Susan Fleming, the Voter Services Director for the Tuscaloosa League of Women Voters, to talk about that. And then we're going to step through it. And at the end, we're going to talk about, after we go through the agenda, we're going to really dig in on Vote 411. And Judy Jones and Kim Bailey will give us sort of a walking tour of that tool and how it's being used in Tuscaloosa. So Susan, I'm going to hand it to you right now. I'm going to spotlight you so people can see you.
Hi, everybody. Um, we are getting ready for the City of Tuscaloosa elections on March 4th. So the local league is having a candidate forum on this coming Thursday, February 20th, from 6:30 to 8:30. We don't know if we'll need all of that time, but we've set aside, a chunk of time so that we make sure we don't run out. Some of the things that we have done to get ready for this election are the following. I made myself a little list so that hopefully I don't forget anything. We have emailed and called all of the candidates for mayor, city council, and city school board. And for the record, we have two candidates for mayor, three for City Council District 1, three for City Council District 2, one each for Districts 3, 4, and 5, three for District 6, and two for District 7. So we've got quite a number of folks there that will, and I think most, if not all of them, are coming Thursday night. So we should have a good discussion going. For school board, only District 1 is contested, so there are two people for that runoff or that election, and the others won't be making any comments because they're the sole person. We have employed print media, social media, and on-air spots announcing the event on WUAL Public Radio. And after the forum is over, Alabama Public Radio spots are going to pivot to making announcements regarding Voter 411. The social media spots have specifically targeted our forum, the date, the place, and the time. It also has listed polling locations, how to know what district you're in, how to make sure you're registered to vote, election day and times that the polls are open. We've made a sign, a two-way sign for our A-frame that we recently obtained, courtesy of the Alabama League. And that's going to sit outside the venue so that people will know where to enter. And if anybody passing by hasn't gotten the word and wants to come in, they can. We've requested questions from our membership at large, and our moderator actually attended a previous forum that another group had and took notes on some of the questions that were asked there that we might ask or follow up on. We've secured our moderator, and as well as two members to vet questions submitted by the audience. We have pads and pencils for the candidates to jot down comments and responses they might want to make. We're going to have cards and pencils for the audience to submit their questions, which will be vetted by the two members for appropriateness. And we've also announced that today is the day, as it turns out, if you are interested in becoming a poll worker, that if you wanted to apply to be one of those, how to do that. So that's where we are.
Thank you, Susan.
Are you going to record it?
I think we're going to record it and then upload it. Is that correct, Kim? Are you going to do it on your phone?
Yes, we're going to record it and upload it to our YouTube channel.
Yes.
Okay.
Hopefully.
If everything works.
Well, you did your last one. I know we were able to share that out, and Judy was able to add that into our voter. So that was a good thing with the candidate meet and greet that you did. So I'm looking forward.
Well, that was a Zoom, so that was easier to record.
Oh, okay. Well,
this is in person.
Now, I was going to say I did do that this past weekend, but I did not Zoom it. I just recorded it, and now for our convening that we did. So I wish you luck, but I think it's going to be good it's a good thing. I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Good.
Were there any other questions for Susan? And then Judy?
The candidates who did not have opposition as well, right?
They've been invited to come and introduce themselves and stay afterwards for questions and chat, with any of their constituents, but they aren't allowed. League rules, I think, say they aren't allowed to make any major statements. We've also told them they can't bring any paraphernalia, buttons, T-shirts, to advertise their own candidacy, that's forbidden.
So I think we might need to talk about that offline, Susan, because you're saying they don't have any opposition?
Right. There's only one person running for certain seats.
Well,
but most of those are school board.
But only thing we have rules about from a league perspective is, when there's more than one candidate and only one shows up. That's where we have trouble having one candidate only having the floor. It's called with an empty chair sitting next to them. So
right.
We can talk more on that later. I guess Susan and Kim, let's get together with Pam Caruso and talk to her about the rules, because I do think if you got time and if that's what you'd like to do, then it's up to you.
Well, we have in the past had candidates who did not have opposition participate, but we have so many this time that I think having them on the stage is not really conducive to time management. And then also that way, because there are a couple who do have opponents, but their opponents aren't attending. And so we have also told them that they can just introduce themselves.
Yeah. And that's okay. That's part of your local league's decision. So I just wanted to make sure it was clear. It wasn't what our rules were versus.
Right.
Let me ask about this. For City Council District 6, there are 3, 2 of whom are coming, and the third is out of town. But he has sent a statement. So my understanding is that since the other 2 are there, we can read his statement. Is that correct?
I don't see a problem with that. I mean, Kim, you.
Well, I was just going to say, I don't know, what does the statement say? Because that kind of makes me cringe, because I don't know that we should read his statement if it says, because he's the incumbent also. I don't, I have such a great job and I'm fabulous. And I mean, you know what I mean? So I would be interested to know what others think about that, but that does kind of give me pause.
Why don't we get with Pam Caruso of looking at the league's guidelines on candidate forums and what what's reasonable, because we did have a candidate forum a couple of years ago where one of the candidates, or two of them, did not show up, and then one of them showed up in the chat and started conversing with everybody, and that was not good. That was actually very disruptive. And so I think there is a reason why you want to control. You don't want to control what people are saying when they're up there working with you. But if they show up in virtually, then they've got a little bit of it, almost like an advantage, where they don't get they don't have to answer the questions that are put to the other candidates. So it is kind of a maybe not as fair.
Yeah, certainly. And luckily we won't have that problem, but, and, I certainly wouldn't have a problem saying, oh, he's out of town, he sends his, regrets or whatever, but I just would not want to, say a lot other than that.
You want it to be fair for everybody that's took the
Right.
time to show up.
Yeah. I can read it to you later if you.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we're going to shift gears, and now we're going to talk about municipal elections coming up across the state. And Roger, do you want me to show the slides, or you want to show them? Do you want to? You're on mute.
I'll show them.
Okay. Let me set it where you can share your screen. Okay. Go ahead. And for everybody that just to introduce Roger, he is our voter services, the state board voter services training lead. So he's, you've probably seen him in some of these other trainings already.
Okay, well, good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining. So we're going to be talking about the municipal elections across Alabama and getting out the vote. So the agenda is going to be why municipal elections are important, when do municipal elections occur. We have a map of the 67 counties of Alabama, the city council meetings, the problem with municipal elections, cities having elections, and getting the game, and then the summary. And please, if you can, hold off your questions until the presentation is over, or just write them down as we go along. So why municipal elections are important? Well, they had a meeting in Montgomery a few years ago, and they decided policy decisions made in Montgomery have a direct impact on their cities. And with nearly 3 out of 4, at 75% of Alabamians living in or around our state's 10 biggest cities, legislation that creates jobs and improves public safety in our communities benefits the vast majority of Alabamians. Another problem with Alabama does not allow home rule. This happened a few years ago when Birmingham wanted to raise the minimum wage, and then I didn't know this either, till the legislature just jumped all over him, said, you can't do that. You have to come through the legislature to do that. And on this meeting, we have what they call the Big 10 mayors of the 10 big cities. And the Big 10 is Birmingham, Huntsville, Mobile, Montgomery, Tuscaloosa, Madison, Hoover, Auburn, Decatur, and Dothan. And in 2021, the legislature decided, or John Merrill decided, that he was getting kind of tired of all these elections in the same year. So the legislature decided to split these municipal elections. So now you see them in 2024 and now in 2025. Each state is different when it comes to the municipal elections. Alabama, there are some municipal elections in even years and odd years. In March 2021, Senate Bill HB 119 was signed by Governor Kay Ivey, and that moved municipal elections between 2025 and 2024. There's a little delay with this.
Lots of mixed feelings surrounding this new development. Well, Margot, during tonight's Madison City Council work session, there were quite a few different opinions and options thrown around regarding what to do with Trash Panda Stadium. This is months after the council decided to make additions to the stadium to adhere to MLB standards.
You're using money from our roads, our lights, our traffic signals, maintenance.
It was about money in Madison City Monday night. The City Council's work session discussed spending tens of millions of dollars to meet Major League Baseball mandates. City Council President John Seifert says he bet on Trash Panda Stadium the first time, and he wants to back it up and make it bigger. He breaks down the cost in millions.
The total bond would be about 25. I think the rough estimate is somewhere around 18. It's about 7 for the first floor.
The investment would meet MLB standards, building a clubhouse in left field, but the plan calls for 3 more stories added to generate funding for extra box seating. For council member Karen Denzine, the numbers aren't adding up for her and her constituents.
Because we have people now who are having a hard time making ends meet, right? How can I justify spending this much more money when they have a hard time going to the grocery store, right? Because it's their tax dollars.
Now, the board is still discussing this idea, but resident Margie Daly says it's the people of Madison who will lose.
It's only about 10% of the families that can actually afford to go to the stadium, maybe once a year. So you guys are doing this for the elite sector, for these private boxes. I mean, you are raping the tax dollars. Thank you.
Well, it was not clear when the council plans to revisit the issue. The big fear here, Major League Baseball could decide to take the Trash Pandas away from Huntsville and Madison, leaving the stadium and its new addition vacant. Some asked whether city leaders here reached out to other cities with baseball teams for advice on these additions. Mayor Finley says he spoke to city leaders in Knoxville and Chattanooga, and they are moving forward with similar plans. Margot?
All right, thank you, Savannah.
This is a pretty good reason why you should be either going to these city meetings or watching a recording of these city council meetings. I have a friend that, out of nowhere, she would go out and sit in the back porch every morning, drink a coffee, and all of a sudden she noticed 2 bulldozers in the next lot to her, breaking ground for something that she didn't even know it. And that's why you need to keep up with this stuff. I know a lot of people don't like to watch local news, but that's one way to keep track of this.
We've got passion, we've got determination. And if we set our sights on something, you better believe it's happening.
Covering your community in Decatur, where the city's most outspoken council member says he expects more security at meetings in the future. He then threatened to bring his own weapon if there is not more security. According to our partners at Decatur Daily, council member Hunter Pepper sent an email to other city leaders saying he wants a bigger police presence at every meeting. He ended by saying, quote, "I will exercise my Second Amendment right openly and willfully." At a meeting in January, Pepper says he was threatened in the parking lot and his car was then surrounded as he tried to leave. Mayor Tab Bowling called Pepper's promise a bad idea. City Council President Jacob Ladner says he's never felt threatened at a city hall meeting, and then said Pepper has only been to 2 meetings since October 28th. Covering your...
Once again, this is why you go to these meetings or keep track of them. This is Madison and Decatur, Alabama, and there's all kinds of controversy going on up here between the stadium and which is that lady had mentioned. The roads here are getting ignored. I mean, they're just full of potholes and cracks in the middle, and yet they're piling money into that stadium. And then, like in Decatur, part of that's a part of that Steve Perkins killing with that. And both cities have elections coming up in August. What is civic engagement? Voting is civic engagement. Educating the voter and helping the voter, say our way, is an important part. Alabama has made it difficult for the voter to vote. Voters are not aware of what it takes to vote in Alabama, especially people who have moved here from other states. Partnering with other nonpartisan groups, the more people that participate in a voter service event, the more people you can reach. Plus, it builds fellowship. Writing postcards to the legislature, This can be a very enjoyable event because everyone's working towards one goal. Attend celebrations with groups who have partnered during the year. We already got scheduled Juneteenth events, international festivals, and the St. Patrick's Day parades. And all these let people know there is a League of Women Voters here, and we also ask partners to help with this. Have candidate forums. The public wants to hear from these candidates and what they have to say, but you got to get the word out. We tried this over and over and over again, and we were pretty successful with it. And attend or watch the council meetings. Now, the city of Madison's pretty good with this. They got their own website. And what you can see here, missed it.
We're not seeing anything if you've got a link you're playing. Are you just wanting to show their website?
Yeah, well. You see it?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, this is their website, and they have everything's archived. All the city meetings are. So if you want to click on that, you can hear what the meetings are going on and what they're talking about. And this is one of the better ones. These smaller towns don't have anything, so I don't know what to do with that.
Was that?
Now, I had some problems trying to find all these municipal elections, and here are the problems I ran into. First of all, it shouldn't be a burden to find out if a city or a town is having a municipal election. I shouldn't have to drill down and drill down and drill down on the internet to find who the city or town clerk is for the municipality. Every city should have an election page. This page gives the voter all the information that is needed to vote. The dates for the voter registration cutoffs, the dates for the absentee ballots, a list of the candidates, the residency requirements, and polling locations. A voter shouldn't have to go to the city clerk's office to pick up the application for the absentee ballot, or have to look at a bulletin board to see who the candidates are running in the election. Every city should have the name, phone number, and the picture of the city clerk on their website, if they have a website, not just an email to fill out. Since the probate office's duty is to conduct the elections, they should have a list of all the cities in their county that will have elections. This should be included on their website. All cities who have municipal elections should have their own website, not a page on Facebook. That means a voter would have to open up a Facebook account to see what's going on in their city. You know, this is the 21st century. And this is why municipal elections have low turnouts, because people don't know where to look for things. And if they go to the place they think it should be, it's not there. Now doing this, going through all these different cities and municipal elections, here's a list I found so far. We got Baldwin County, all their elections for the cities. We got Houston. Now in Houston County, Dothan is having an election on the 5th of August. Jackson County, with Scottsboro just had theirs last year. Lee County, Limestone County, Madison County, Huntsville had theirs last year. Marshall County, you can see all the different towns. Mobile County, Morgan County, Shelby County, and Tuscaloosa County.
News 19, your local election headquarters now. Tuesday's municipal election here in Huntsville received very poor voter turnout.
That turnout was so low that some races were decided by just a few dozen votes. News 19's Emily Mosner joins us now. And Emily, just how many people actually voted in this election?
Well, Tamika, of the 77,000 registered voters in District 1 and 5 in the city of Huntsville, barely 6,000 actually voted. According to the unofficial election results, 6,070 votes were cast. That's about a 7% voter turnout. Now, some hotly contested races like the race for District 1 City Council, that seat could have benefited from a larger voter turnout. In that race, less than 4,000 votes were cast. According to the unofficial results, Michelle Watkins received 1,963 votes. Her challenger, Devin Keith, received 1,619 votes. Now, Watkins ended up with 49.51% of the vote, falling just short of a majority, which will likely send her and Keith into a runoff. Now, today I spoke with Huntsville City Clerk Chandrika Edwards, who says a larger voter turnout could have made an impact on Tuesday.
One seat in particular was as close as a 24 vote difference to avoid a runoff. And so it does matter. Every vote matters. Those 77,000 voters across District 1 and 5, we encourage them to come out because it matters.
Again, the results from Tuesday's municipal election are still unofficial, and some of the school board races were also very close. Edwards tells me that the votes will be canvassed on Tuesday, September 3rd at noon. Once that happens, she'll be able to declare a runoff if necessary, where in the races where neither candidate received the majority of the vote. We have all results posted on WHNT.com from that election on Tuesday.
Now, the voter turnout for this election was so low, this made national news. So it didn't have Huntsville look very good with this. And municipal elections are almost traditionally very low in turnout. So we just, this is like this says, we didn't think our vote would make a difference. Well, it's like she said, 23 votes made a difference. Plus you had to have a runoff, so that's going to cost more. So here's a summary. We talked about why municipal elections are important. When do municipal elections occur? The map of the 67 counties of Alabama, city council meetings, the problem with municipal elections, cities having elections, and get the game. So any questions?
Roger, you had a question in the chat from Billy Allen. Will the city of Smith Station have elections this year? And I guess I was trying to figure out which county is Smith Station in. Billy, do you want to come off of mute and say, because
yes. Hello, everyone. This is Billy Allen, and yes, Smith Station is in Lee County, and I may have missed it when you went over the slide. I don't remember seeing Smith Station as a municipality that's having an election this year.
I think it sounds like all of the counties are having, all the municipalities are having elections, aren't they?
Right.
There it is.
What's it?
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. I'm still working on this, so I'm pretty close to getting it finished.
So we are going to be sending these slides out with the video from tonight, and somebody just asked the question. Come off of mute and ask your question.
Okay.
It was Susan. I didn't see on Tuscaloosa site that Northport is having. Did I just miss it? They're doing theirs in August. Tuscaloosa County.
Yeah, they got one coming up. 8/26.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
Belinda Webb, and here's that's her website.
I was looking alphabetically. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
Judy, you had your hand up? Go ahead.
Yeah, I did. Roger, when you were going through the list of problems, and especially with the websites, I noticed something that was interesting, that the websites, you don't have candidates until the qualifying period is over. Right. But there's no information on the websites about what to do if you want to run.
Well, something like that. Usually you go to the Secretary of State office.
Well, theoretically, I think the town clerks or the city clerks, because when they eventually put it on there, they say, call me for a candidate packet or something like that.
Yeah.
But it's almost like if they don't post any information about the elections at all until 2 months before the elections, that doesn't give anybody an opportunity to know what the races are and whether they might want to run for it. So I thought that was interesting to note as well.
Well, I agree. It's like I said, that's one of the problems with all this. I know it's only in February, but people are gearing up for all these, and plus it gives us a little more time to get the word out.
So we would like to, I guess this is something I've talked with a few of the folks on our voter skills training, usual people who talk. We would like to have one of our months bringing in someone to talk about, running for office, and not, obviously we can't, we're nonpartisan, but we feel like the key is going to be not only for voters to turn up, but for people to run for office, because there's not enough people to cover all the offices out there, and we need more than one person running. So this is definitely an important consideration. And what Judy was mentioning is, if it's not obvious, sometimes, you just don't know. You don't know how to even take that first step. So this is critical, but part of this is going to be for the folks online to start talking to your city, your municipality, circuit clerks and others to find out, what's it going to take for them to put that kind of stuff out there. Did somebody say something? I see. All right. So there is let me look. There's some other questions.
Right, about the qualifying dates. I would think it would be the same, but like I said, everybody's different with this.
So Chris Ando was asking a question about the Alabama counties. I actually think we're going to talk a little bit about that when we talk the Vote 411 as far as voter districts. And so you see that I'm going to mention that to Kim and Judy, so you be ready. And then there was a question about, is Jefferson County going to be included in the slides? Roger, I think you said you're not done. You guys are still building.
I'm not finished. Yeah, that was one of the larger ones. So yes, I'll be working on it.
Yeah, and so then there were some other questions about the candidates, and I think that's something we're going to look for to do in the next one of our next months, is to start trying to help drive out what it would take, or what are the deadlines and things like that by municipality, but that may end up being different for every municipality. It is unfortunate that it's so difficult to find the information.
And city elections are nonpartisan.
That's right. They are. All right. So we're going to shift gears. We want to leave plenty of time at the end for follow-up questions that people have. Brian is going to talk about the National Voting Rights Act, voter roll maintenance processes that the state is using now. Let me change the spotlight here.
Okay, and
just a second. Do you want me to show your slides, or do you want to show
them?
If you want to drive, you can.
I mean, let me see, since my internet's not behaving real well. Today I might have you do them, because why
don't I do it? Why don't I do it, and then you can tell me what the slide.
Okay.
If you'll turn that share off, and I'll turn mine on, and that might work better.
All right.
Okay, hold on. Let's see. Shoot. Let's see.
While Kathy's doing that, one other thing I forgot to say about the Tuscaloosa Forum. Kim and I will both be bringing Vote 411 cards to the forum to pass out.
All right. Let me know if this is showing up for you.
All right.
I can find hold on, I'm trying to find I think I must have two things open, because there we go. All right, there you go. Let me make
All
sure.
right.
There we go.
There you go. Okay. And I'd like to thank Kathy for the opportunity to present this. When she asked me to do it, I thought it was easy because, oh, I know this process won't take me long at all. What I didn't know at the time was in the 2021 legislative session, they passed a bill revising the process that became effective this year in 2025. So I'm going to present kind of like wrap up of the 2021 cycle and the start of the 2025. But to be honest, there's some questions on the new process that I don't know what the answers are yet, and I'm not sure anyone knows the answers exactly. Next slide, please. Okay, what I'm going to cover just real quickly is why the voter roll maintenance, what's important about it. I'm going to just go real quick some acronyms I use because I realize I'm a retired civil servant. I speak in acronyms. Not everyone knows those acronyms. What the NVRA requires, and how Alabama is implementing it. And then I'll just at the end the references. There's a lot of material I ended up looking at this, and I didn't have time to go through all of it, so I put some links down if people want to get more in depth. Next slide, please. All right, on the acronyms, NVRA is the National Voter Registration Act of 1993. NCSL is National Conference of State Legislatures. They have a lot of information on this. NASS is the National Association of Secretaries of State. And again, they also have a lot of information. Those two sites, if you're interested, they'll have kind of state by state comparisons. So if you want to know what other states do, you can go to look at those sites. I'm just going to pretty much cover Alabama today and the HAVA Help America Vote Act of 2002. All I'm going to talk about is right here. A lot of places when they talk about voter roll maintenance, will talk about, well, it has to be in accordance with NVRA and HAVA. Well, all HAVA really says states can do pretty much anything they want as long as their process is non-discriminatory. So there's not a lot of requirements. So I just wanted to address it here, but like I say, they don't have requirements. Next slide, please. Okay, why is voter roll maintenance important? Well, voter roll maintenance is a process used to make sure voting rolls are current and accurate, and that's important to having good elections. Voter registration list should be kept up to date. What it helps do, it helps protect the integrity of elections. It helps ensure citizens vote in the right location and for the correct offices. And that's kind of a big deal. People don't think about it. But if you're in a particular district, and going back a little bit what Roger said, something like a county commission district or a state rep or state senator are pretty small districts, and a couple votes in the wrong district could change the outcome. In 2022, there was a big kerfuffle over House District 2, the primary, because it had about 50 people that voted in the wrong district, and the runoff was determined by a total of 14 votes. So it's important to get people in the right location. It helps lower the probability of long lines at the polls. If the rolls are up to date, it will make it easier to process quicker. It reduces the number of provisional ballots. Again, if you're in the wrong place, you end up with a provisional ballot, and that delays things. And updated records also allow election administrators to plan better to manage their budgets. It will affect things like how many ballots do you need, how many poll pads should you have per location, even how many poll workers you need. If you have an accurate count of the number of voters, then that helps keep everything running smoothly. Next slide. Okay, as far as the NVRA does require voter roll maintenance. It's in Section 8 of the NVRA. NVRA in general says to update when you update your list, it could be at the request of the voter. In other words, if lots of places, when you fill out, register a new place and you change districts, they will take that information, remove you from the old rolls. Of course, in some states, you can be removed from the rolls for mental incapacity. Of course, Alabama is one of these states. Some states allow you to be removed from the rolls for felony convictions. Once again, Alabama is one of those states that does that. So NVRA allows all that, but also requires states to conduct a general voter registration list maintenance program every 4 years. And it says the goals of that program is to remove ineligible persons from the voters' rolls by reason of death or change of residence outside the jurisdiction. So the NVRA does require this process. And the list maintenance program must be uniform and non-discriminatory and in compliance with the Voting Rights Act. And it prohibits removing registrants from the voter registration list solely because of failure to vote. And one of the things I noticed in the Alabama process, and apparently other states, it's interesting, the way you get on the inactive list is you haven't voted. And then if you use that to remove you, to me, that would say you're getting removed solely for not voting. But there has been, Ohio had a court case, and basically they use that same process, and the courts allowed it. So I guess it's now allowed. Next slide. And on the Alabama implementation on this, and these are kind of the general requirements I'm going to cut first. It says names of the people he placed on the inactive voter list. And that's if you haven't voted in 2 federal election cycles, or basically 4 years, you're supposed to be placed on the list. They publish those names in the newspaper. And there's instructions on how to re-identify yourself. If you don't do that, you end up on the list. But it's interesting, they have an exception. You're supposed to have a deadline, and it's basically the voter registration deadline to re-identify. But they do allow the exception if you haven't gone through that process, but you do show up at the polls on election day by filling out a re-identification form, you can vote. Next slide, please, Kathy. So going back to 2021, in 2021, they had published a list in the newspapers, told people what to do if they're on that list. And back then they used a 2-step process. Every voter got a postcard that basically said, here's your information. Please let us know if it's correct. And if that postcard did not come back, you were good. For those postcards that did come back, they were sent a second postcard that said, you need to return this card and either tell us your information is correct or update your information to the correct location. Those are the people that ended up being put. If you did not respond to that postcard, you ended up on the inactive list. Then we went through the elections in 22 and 24. And then in Limestone County, now I've got a slide in just a minute. In December, they published the list again. And those were the people that remained on the list, that had been on the list in 2021, not updated and not voted. And those people were given until January 31st to be removed from the list. And so we're now past that deadline, so they didn't do anything. They will be removed. And then in Alabama, it was about 116,000 people that will be removed from the list. Next slide, Kathy. And this was a notice of or a screenshot of the page that was put in Limestone County. I think it's interesting, like they can't even spell limestone correctly. And this list, the law says the list is supposed to be published by precinct and then alphabetically. Limestone chose just to publish the list alphabetically, so technically they didn't comply with the law. But I don't remember the exact number for Limestone, but all these people, if they don't respond by January 31st of this year, they will be removed from the list. And the only way they'll be able to vote in the future if they go back and re-register. Next slide. All right. This is the new process that we are just starting. One of the changes it did, it has pushed the period for doing this, and now they've moved it from January to February, and I'm not sure why they made that change. But instead of sending a postcard to everyone, they're now using a 1-step process. They are comparing. They're going to use the National Change of Address Database from Post Office, and the law says you will use at least one other voter registration database. Now, somehow the Secretary of State's office decided this voter registration database they're going to use is the Experian Credit Bureau list. Now, I have no idea how they got there, but that's the 2 lists. And what they're going to do is compare the addresses in those. If someone's name for some reason showed up on the USPS list, or I'm not sure if you have to be on both lists or one of them, or the Experian list, you will be put onto this list for potentially be made inactive. And they made the process a little bit more complicated. If your new address is in the same jurisdiction or the same county as you currently are, they're just going to go and change your address to the new information, to the new information, which seems very backwards to me because that information is incorrect. When they send out the postcard, they're going to send it to an address you've never lived at. You will never get it. You'll never take any action. So this makes no sense to me, the new way they're doing it. Again, so, and you'll get one postcard instead of two, and it'll just say, we've updated your information. If it's correct, great. If it's not correct, tell us. Now, if their information shows you moved to a jurisdiction outside your county, it's a little bit of the old process. You can get the old postcard sent that says, we have information that your address has changed. Please verify whether your old address is still good. What's your new address? But instead of having that a two-step process, a one-step process. So it's going to be interesting to see how this works. And like I say, it's in the month of February. They're supposed to put the list in the local papers. I've checked the Huntsville paper and the Athens paper C, and I have not seen a list in either of those papers yet. So we're getting near the end of the month. It should be coming very soon. And again, it will be the same process. If you're put on the inactive list and don't update and don't vote next two elections, then in what will be 2029, they'll publish the list one more time, then remove you from the voters list. Again, some questions I have about that. I don't know if they're going to first take the entire voters list and cut it down to just people that haven't voted in the last two elections and then run that against the databases to check addresses, or if they're going to run the entire voter registration list against that. And again, I'm not sure what the rules are. If one says you moved and one says you haven't, I don't know which one's going to take precedence or how they're going to handle that. Next slide. Again, these are just the references that will be in the slides when they go out. The first one just is, again, it has the National Voters Registration Act in it. And it gets you in a lot of details and discusses the development, has the actual act there. So if you want to get into nitty-gritty details, you can look at that. And again, the next two, one is the Secretary of States and one is the state legislatures. Or if you're curious about kind of the history, how some of this happened, and again, it will do a state-by-state comparison. And if you really want to see the details, the Code of Alabama references there where the actual description of the whole voter roll maintenance is. And the new section, the 7430 through 7431, is the new act that they had done, processed in 2021. That's all I have. Be glad to answer any questions. Again, I wish I had some more definitive answers on how something was going to work. But Kathy, what was that group you sent me a link to? It was the Alabama Voter Registration Advisory Board.
Yeah, that's a state count. That's a state board. It's just I don't, it's a public meeting, but I don't think it's, it's not something that they don't Zoom it. It's just something they meet once a quarter.
Yeah, but it was interesting though. The link you sent me, these are the people, I guess it's registrars and people from the Secretary of State's office. And they had a lot of questions themselves about how this new process was going to work.
Yeah.
They were discussing it. And if that recording, I think everything in public be interesting because like I say, they were saying, well, this is terrible. How are we going to do this? And these are the people that are doing it. So I think, and that may be why we haven't seen the list yet, is they may not have even decided what's the best way to do it.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of work to be done. And I just, for everybody that's, hold on, me. So I was just going to say to everybody that's on this call, just so you know, we are, because of us getting some visibility into this meeting, we're going to be starting to show up there and just understanding, what's happening and trying to figure out, how does the public know what's happening? This is another public open meeting and we're going to be showing up and basically trying to make sure that we understand what their plans are. I see Susan's question about any chance to get back into ERIC. I'd say no. They're developing their own system. It's called AVID, and we actually had a forum on that. And I'll pull that up here and drop it in the chat. But that we were. There are more states dropping out of ERIC now since the election. I don't know how many states total have dropped out of ERIC, but it's an unfortunate thing because it's a bipartisan tool that's had over a decade of proof of process. And what the state of Alabama is using is a homegrown solution. So we've got a lot, we have a lot of challenges. I think
Kathy,
yeah.
Let me jump back in for me because I see a couple of questions. One is a question about the Experian database. Does it distinguish between voters and non-voters? The answer is I don't know, but that was one of the questions from this meeting. They weren't sure. Again, you're going to have the voter rolls, and how are they going to do the comparison? They were thinking about, is it ES&S that does the a lot of the voting machines here? They were hoping they were somehow develop a script that would say, okay, Brian Lords is a voter. Let's take that name and run it against those two databases and see if there's a match. Well, Brian Lords, I'm pretty confident there won't be another one. But if my name is John Smith, I got a feeling there's going to be a lot of John Smiths in there. And how are they going to differentiate? Is that the right John Smith? And should we flag him or not?
And there was a comment made that the state, they just realized that the Experian folks can change people's address without any kind of notification. So they were like, this isn't as stable as they thought it was going to be. But and do you know how accurate it is, honestly? So it is a credit. It's a credit. It's meant for credit checks. So
and someone else asked a question about the Huntsville newspaper, and I asked a general question, and there was a lady in the Secretary of State's office, and I can't say Candace. What's her last name?
Payne.
Kathy. She was very helpful in answering a lot of questions. But one of the questions I asked her was about newspapers, since now a lot of places do not have newspapers. And her answer was kind of vague. Well, that's kind of at the local level. If they don't have a newspaper, what they're going to do. There has been discussions about trying to put the list, an electronic list on the Secretary of State's website, but they haven't done that yet. And I thought there was one other question. Oh, it's just about the question you answered about Eric, but I find it funny. The law in 2021, it talks about using the USPS system, and it specifically mentions, you said you have to use a second database, and the only one they specifically name is Eric, which we no longer are a member of. And then it talks about an NVRA approved database, and I don't know what an NVRA approved database is. I'm surprised. I don't think it's a voter registration database, and I don't know why. So that the wording in the Alabama law is going to be NVRA approved, but I don't know if there are any NVRA approved databases. Again, someone else just added a comment that I'm surprised Jefferson County does not have a countywide newspaper anymore. I would have thought the largest county would have one. And that's, I think, all I've got.
All right. So I found the link to the video that we did on the voter roll maintenance about this time last year. It talks about the transition from the NVRA to ERIC. And you can watch that to hear what the new AVID system is, which is replacing ERIC. So now I'm going to switch gears again. And this is really looking at our Vote 411 system. And this is going to be, Judy, where are you? I'm looking for you on this. Oh, there you are. Okay. I'm going to spotlight you and Kim to talk about what's going on with Vote 411 and our new white page. And I think this will be really, really helpful for other folks.
I'm going to start out by just sharing a screen. Let's see here. Talking about the overall let's see here. Oh, there we go. Just a Vote 411 overall. And not everyone may even know. There may be people on the call that are not familiar with Vote 411. But essentially, and I didn't realize this, it was developed by the league, the National League, in 2006. So it's been around. Next year will be 20 years, which that's kind of crazy. I had no idea of that. It's supposed to be a one-stop shopping place for election-related information, nonpartisan election information. The big feature is you can key in your address and get specific information to where you live. It's got information on voter registration, absentee ballots, information about polling places. It's just really got a lot of information that voters need and one place to come and get it. To implement it in an area. Well, first, the league has had it kind of, the state league has subscribed to it for state races, and the local leagues have always had the option to subscribe to it at local level. And Greater Birmingham's done it a couple times. Maybe some other local leagues have, but essentially, this coming year for municipals, the state league has an opportunity to cover 50 municipalities in the state of Alabama. So that's one reason that we sort of wanted to talk about this today, was to start giving everybody the sense of what it was and what it takes to put it up for a race, an election. And because we'll all be thinking about these things as we get closer to August, with the caveat that we wanted to jump in and do it for Tuscaloosa because we had a very fast opportunity to do sort of a test run in Tuscaloosa and see what was going to be involved with coordinating between state and local league, implementing Vote 411 for that municipal election. So essentially, what we do, we have to first obtain the list of races, develop questions for each race. Typically, you wouldn't, you might develop one set of questions for a judicial race, or another set for a city council race, or another set for a mayor race. Then you get your list of candidates. You get candidate contact information, which that can be kind of tricky. Then you set up the races and the candidates and districts in Vote 411. Districts being another tricky thing, since they're GIS districts that vary for GIS files that vary based on what the district is. Finalize candidate communications. There are templates for letters that exist within Vote 411. There's a letter to invite the candidate to participate, telling them what it is and here's how you participate. There are follow-up emails, templates to tell them, hey, you haven't filled it in yet. Please come back in and respond. There's a template that says, we're about to publish, is your information there? And then we even could send them one saying we published it. So then we send candidate invitations. And a really interesting thing about the system to me is that candidates actually enter their own information. People who volunteer with Vote 411, we literally do not touch the candidate answers. That's one thing, we keep it secure. And so if you're reading something, if something's misspelled, the candidate misspelled it. In fact, last time I did it in Greater Birmingham, I just put a note at the end to be sure you check your spelling, because if something gets in there misspelled, that definitely affects the way a voter looks at a candidate. And another interesting thing is that the candidates can go in and out of Vote 411 as much as they need to. In other words, if I go in and start my survey responses, then I can quit. It saves what I've done to that point, and I can go back in. You can actually go back in after it's published. I think that's kind of funny, actually. A candidate could actually read other candidates' responses and then go in and change theirs, which hopefully nobody's really noticed that, but it's interesting to me that that's actually possible. And then at some point, the information is published for the voters and made available. So this is kind of what we started out doing for Tuscaloosa, and I think Kim's going to tell us a little bit about how that actually played out for Tuscaloosa to this point.
Yes, thank you. Hello, everyone. So I think, Tuscaloosa, it felt like everything happened really fast, but Judy and I were talking earlier, and maybe that's because it was right after the holiday. I don't know, but it felt like everything was just like on us all at once. But the notice of the election didn't go out until January the 14th. Qualifying was from the 14th to the 28th. And so we didn't have any information to, put into Vote For, or we couldn't do anything with Vote 411 and really until January 29th, with the election being on March the 4th. And so I will say the city clerk was very responsive, though, and sent us all of the candidates' contact information. So we were lucky. We just emailed her, and she emailed right back with the phone numbers and email addresses, and all were correct except for one. But I think he had sent it to them wrong or something. Anyway, so we were really, really very fortunate about that. Now, Tuscaloosa does not put a lot of information on their website about the election early, as Roger was talking about. Sometimes that's a challenge. But the 29th, all the races were up there and everybody knew who was running. But prior to that, there wasn't really much information. So after January 29th until today, we have been working to do the questions. Judy's been entering in the information and to get everything published in time so people can look at it for, a week or two at least before the election. And we decided that we would only do 2 very simple questions, because a lot of times what happens is the candidates don't bother to answer the questions, which says something. I mean, that says something too, but you always kind of feel like you have to harangue them, to get them to respond so that there is something in there. And so 2 things. We decided to do 2 simple questions so it would be easy for them to answer, and we weren't going to harangue them. So if they answer, they answer, and if they don't, they don't. So that's kind of our philosophy going forward. So hopefully, we have fingers crossed that we'll get, a lot of people to go and visit the site and check out the information. Like Susan was saying, we're going to pivot our ads on public radio to promote Vote 411, and then we're going to have information that we give out during the forum, and we'll be promoting it on social media too, of course. So.
And if I can, any questions?
I was going to ask, did you ever find out what the voter cutoff date is?
Ask that again.
The cutoff date to register to vote?
Yeah, I think it's
today, actually.
Today?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
February 17th. Okay, well, I'm going to share my screen and hopefully walk you through the sites. Let's see here.
Judy, there is something right on top of everything that you're showing. I'm wondering if you share your whole screen or move. Looks like maybe your control bar is right on top of the website.
Well, it says you're screen sharing and stop screen. It's like, I'm not sure what, I don't know how to get rid of it.
If you can drag that Zoom control off of, and you also want to share your desktop.
Okay, it's shared. It's shared. Can you see it?
Now it's gone. There's one over on the far right, but there's a big gray block that's on the far right, which I think is actually the picture of all of us, but maybe if you minimize the picture, the thumbnails.
Well, just answer my question. Can you see the Vote 411 first?
Yeah, but it's blocked.
Okay.
I'm just saying you need to minimize the thumbnails. Okay, that's good.
Did that do it?
Yeah,
okay.
That did it.
Okay. Let me see where I am. Well, now, just a second. It's covering my navigation up now. Okay. All right. This is, so initially, this was vote411.org. And if you entered that address, this is where you got to. And I mean, essentially, you came down, entered your address, and then hit submit, and it came back and showed you personalized information for your address. The really bad thing about it is if you clicked up here, register to vote, it took you to a place that picked up your information, but it was powered by Rock the Vote. And the Secretary of State dissed us a little bit about partnering with Rock the Vote. And we listened and then thought there was actually a couple of nuggets of truth that Rock the Vote does collect some information, but the league does not. So we went after the National League to create something called a white page, where it's not the typical Vote 411 front page. You get to it, vote411.org/LWVAL. But the information that you see is much more personalized for Alabama voters. If I click register to vote, it takes me to the Secretary of State site to register to vote. And then you can still submit your information. It shows you the upcoming elections with the registration deadlines. You can actually I'll go ahead and hit this state, and it shows you even more specific information about Alabama. This is the Tuscaloosa election, but here are the other elections that are upcoming. You can see the August 26 municipalities. Information to get ready, Alabama voting, and this is that one-stop information shopping, ballot notice, campaign finance information, drop boxes. We don't know anything about those in Alabama. Early voting, election dates, eligibility, IDs, all that information. So, see, yeah. All right. If I were to key in, or to kind of get it queued up, someplace in Tuscaloosa. This is actually the library, one of the libraries. Okay, I do get the March 4th municipal election. I see my races, which are Board of Education District 1, the chair of the Board of Education, the City Council District 1, and mayor. And I'll tell on myself and give a chuckle. I actually clicked on one of these, saw where there were two candidates, clicked on Walt Maddox to look at, and I scrolled down and I'm looking at some information here and I'm saying, wait a minute, waltmaddox.com, Walt Maddox, at Walt Maddox, at Walt Maddox. And I immediately thought there was a system problem because I didn't enter in any of that information. And we just published this and made it available to candidates last night. Like it wasn't even early last night. And then I come down and the two questions are, why are you running for this position? By golly, there's an answer there. And what will be your top 3 priorities if elected? There's an answer there. And so we actually had the mayor of Tuscaloosa, who within 12 hours of getting our invitation to participate actually did go in and participate, filled out the survey. So I was amazed and just completely thrown aback. Let's see here. I think that's all. Are there any questions about how Vote 411 works?
I'm going to remove the spotlight so we can see everybody, and just wanted to, I guess right now, are there any questions folks have? There's going to be more to come later, but we wanted you to know what the white page looked like. Anyone? So thank you, Judy and Kim. This is a great test of the system for municipal elections, and it's definitely something that is driving out a lot of the kinks in the system, because I think someone might have said it, but there's over 740 municipal elections in Alabama during 2025. And what we really want to do is to use this year as an opportunity to build civic engagement, voter turnout, so that when next fall, when people are starting to really ramp up to get ready for the state house, state senate, gubernatorial election, all of these things that are going to happen in 2026, then and I think the governor's on the ballot next year. I may be wrong, but But next year is the state elections and also the congressional elections. And so this year, working and focusing on municipal elections and maximizing voter participation and just helping people understand how important it is to show up to all the issues that you care about, then everything we're learning now is going to make us be able to better engage with voters. And so Vote 411 is a tool that's going to help us do that. And I want to thank everybody for showing up today. And so I see Dr. Jazz has asked where to go to look up the municipalities in each county. So that's part of the challenge, Janine. That is indeed that's the big problem. There's not a centralized list. So that's what Roger and his team is building, is basically a central site. And once we get this, I guess pretty soon we'll have a place on our website that we can load this kind of information up and put it out. We're going to put it out as a press release, but just know that, it'll be there on our site, and you can share it, but it's not readily available to the public by the municipalities or any central site. Do anybody want to add to that? All right. Well, I think we've run a little long today, but I think we've covered a lot of ground too. Judy?
I can say one thing about that. There were several counties that I went to that, in fact, Baldwin County actually was one, I think, that they had a list on their website of the county site of cities and towns in Baldwin County that were going to have elections, and they actually had links to their websites.
Thank you, Judy. Yeah, it's kind of county dependent, isn't it? And that's what you and Roger have both been emphasizing. There's not a consistency between counties.
Right. There's none.
And that is really unfortunate, especially in some of the smaller smaller population counties, because everyone's having elections and you need people running for office too. And they may or may not even know how to run for office. All right. So thank you, everybody. And we will have more information about our February training. I'll send the flyer out for that with the recording for this session. And somebody just asked a question. Let's see. Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you and good night. Good afternoon. I guess I should say good afternoon. Time flies quick. Have a good
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Good day.
Thank you. It was a good session.
Thank you.